In a world that praises empathy, we're often told to walk in someone else's shoes and feel their pain. But what happens when empathy goes too far, leading us to sacrifice our own well-being, principles, or even mental health to avoid others' discomfort? In her eye-opening book, Toxic Empathy, Allie Beth Stuckey tackles this question head-on. She argues that empathy, while essential, can also become dangerous when it overrides our ability to set boundaries and maintain a balanced perspective. She empowers readers to practice healthy empathy, one that fosters compassion without the cost of our own inner peace or values. Chapter 1. In the first chapter of Toxic Empathy, Allie Beth Stuckey tackles what she refers to as lie number one in the ongoing cultural debate around abortion, the claim that abortion is healthcare. Stuckey argues that this widely accepted narrative has been strategically used to dehumanize the unborn, presenting abortion as a neutral, even benevolent act, while obscuring its true moral implications. She insists that framing abortion as healthcare is a dangerous distortion of the truth, as it shifts the focus from the unborn child's life to a woman's right to choose, often ignoring the reality of what abortion actually involves. Stuckey emphasizes that abortion is not a benign medical procedure, but one that ends a human life, calling attention to the dehumanizing language used by abortion advocates who claim that it's simply part of a woman's reproductive rights. By likening it to other medical procedures, society has normalized the idea that abortion is just a form of care that women are entitled to, dismissing the emotional, psychological, and physical consequences that can follow. Stuckey stresses that the language of healthcare fails to address the moral gravity of abortion and the inherent violence it entails, creating a cognitive dissonance for those who are otherwise compassionate and empathetic. She also critiques how abortion rhetoric appeals to empathy in a manipulative way, urging listeners to see the abortion issue through the lens of compassion for women rather than acknowledging the life of the unborn child. This approach, she argues, falsely frames pro-life advocates as unempathetic or dismissive of women's struggles. In contrast, Stuckey suggests that true empathy would involve acknowledging the humanity of the unborn and offering support to both mother and child through alternative options. Furthermore, Stuckey exposes the way the healthcare argument has been weaponized in political and social conversations. By labeling abortion as healthcare, activists and policymakers are able to sidestep the deep moral questions surrounding abortion and instead focus on a woman's bodily autonomy, conveniently disregarding the fetus. The danger here, according to Stuckey, is that such framing encourages people to ignore or rationalize the abortion of millions of unborn children while maintaining the illusion of moral righteousness. Ultimately, Stuckey calls for a reevaluation of how society views abortion, urging readers to adopt a more holistic and truthful perspective. She challenges the notion that abortion is an act of healthcare and instead invites a deeper conversation about what it means to truly care for women and children, particularly those who find themselves in difficult circumstances. By unraveling the lie that abortion is healthcare, Stuckey aims to reframe the conversation, encouraging people to engage with the topic of abortion with clarity, compassion, and a commitment to protecting the most vulnerable among us. Chapter 2. In Chapter 2 of Toxic Empathy, Allie Beth Stuckey addresses lie number 2, the assertion that trans women are women. This statement, she argues, is not only a distortion of reality, but also a dangerous undermining of the very concept of biological sex. Stuckey contends that by embracing the idea that gender is entirely fluid and self-defined, society has allowed this lie to proliferate, often at the expense of biological truth, women's rights, and the very foundation of gender identity itself. Stuckey critiques how the phrase "trans women are women" has become a cornerstone of progressive movements, seemingly designed to affirm the identities of transgender individuals. While she stresses the importance of treating all individuals with dignity and respect, she insists that this does not mean that biological sex should be ignored or erased in favor of a subjective, self-identified gender. By declaring that trans women are biologically female, she argues, society is denying the reality of sex differences, which are grounded in biology and science. The author goes on to explain that by embracing this notion, we risk erasing the struggles and specific needs of biological women, especially in areas like sports, healthcare, and women's rights. For example, Stuckey points to the debate surrounding transgender athletes, where male-to-female athletes often compete in women's sports and frequently dominate due to physical advantages. She argues that this situation not only undermines fairness, but also marginalizes the very women's sports and opportunities that are meant to empower biological women. Stuckey also challenges the notion that gender is a purely social construct, claiming that this perspective fails to recognize the deeply rooted biological distinctions between men and women. She acknowledges that transgender individuals deserve respect and support, but she warns that the cultural push to equate gender identity with biological sex is harmful in several ways. It erodes the language used to discuss sex and gender, replacing clear biological terms with a confusing and ambiguous language that makes it more difficult to have honest conversations about sex, healthcare, and women's issues. The author's primary concern is not with the treatment of transgender people, but with the consequences of redefining gender in such a way that undermines the experiences of biological women. Stuckey argues that the demand for society to accept the lie that trans women are women creates a false equivalency between those born male and those born female, erasing the specific needs and struggles that women face. She urges readers to question the cultural narrative and to stand firm in the belief that sex is not merely a social construct, but a reality that influences every aspect of human life, from health to safety to opportunity. In conclusion, Stuckey calls for empathy that acknowledges the complexity of transgender issues while also safeguarding the rights and realities of biological women. She emphasizes that the truth about sex and gender should not be sacrificed in the name of inclusivity, and society must strive to strike a balance between respecting transgender individuals and maintaining the integrity of women's rights and spaces. Through this chapter, Stuckey challenges readers to reconsider the prevailing narrative and to navigate these issues with both compassion and clarity. Chapter 3. Building on the previous chapters, Stuckey tackles lie number 3, the widely accepted notion that love is love. At the heart of this lie is the idea that love, in all its forms, is morally equivalent regardless of the nature of the relationship, and that to question any romantic relationship, especially those outside of traditional heterosexual marriages, is to be intolerant or bigoted. Stuckey challenges this mantra, arguing that while love itself can be a beautiful and profound human experience, not all forms of love are equal in their morality or social consequences. Stuckey explains that the phrase "love is love" has become a powerful rallying cry for various movements advocating for the acceptance of non-traditional relationships, including same-sex marriage and polyamorous relationships. While she acknowledges the importance of love and respect in any relationship, she asserts that this slogan oversimplifies complex issues of morality, law, and cultural norms. According to Stuckey, love should not be used as a blanket justification for any behavior, especially when it involves actions that contradict established moral principles or biological realities. The author takes particular issue with how this mantra has been used to normalize same-sex marriage and other relationships that, in her view, do not align with biblical teachings or traditional societal structures. She argues that while individuals in same-sex relationships are deserving of respect, acceptance, and basic human dignity, this does not mean that every relationship is morally equivalent or that all forms of love should be celebrated equally. Stuckey stresses the importance of distinguishing between unconditional love for people and the moral evaluations we make about the actions and relationships people engage in. She emphasizes that genuine love involves wanting the best for others, which may include speaking truth into their lives when necessary, even if it challenges current cultural norms. Stuckey also critiques how the "love is love" narrative has been weaponized to silence opposition to the acceptance of certain relationships. By equating any challenge to non-traditional relationships with hatred or bigotry, society has stifled meaningful discussions about the ethical implications of these relationships. The author argues that not all expressions of love are free from harm or moral consequences, and society should be allowed to engage in open dialogue about the nature of relationships without being labeled as intolerant. Throughout the chapter, Stuckey makes it clear that her argument is not about denying love or dehumanizing people in non-heteronormative relationships. Rather, she advocates for a nuanced approach that allows for both compassion and a commitment to moral truth. In her view, love cannot be separated from the moral and ethical context in which it exists. She encourages readers to love people without endorsing behaviors or relationships that may not align with a higher moral standard. Chapter 4. In the fourth chapter, Allie Beth Stuckey addresses lie number 4, the popular slogan, "No human is illegal." This phrase, often used in the context of immigration debates, asserts that people, regardless of their immigration status, should never be referred to as illegal. While the sentiment behind the slogan is rooted in compassion, Stuckey argues that this blanket statement overlooks the importance of rule of law and the moral implications of illegal immigration. Stuckey starts by acknowledging the emotional appeal of the phrase, emphasizing that it is meant to humanize immigrants and to remind society that they are people deserving of dignity and respect. However, she contends that the slogan falsely equates immigration status with the intrinsic worth of a person. While no individual is illegal in their inherent humanity, she argues that the act of entering or residing in a country without following its legal processes can and should be viewed as illegal behavior, regardless of the person's worth or intent. Stuckey emphasizes that distinguishing between a person's dignity and their actions is crucial for maintaining a functioning society, and that recognizing illegal immigration as unlawful is not the same as dehumanizing the individuals involved. The chapter delves into the complexities of immigration policy, where Stuckey asserts that the rule of law must be upheld for the safety and stability of society. She points out that calling an individual illegal is not an attack on their humanity, but a reflection of their status in the eyes of the law. The real issue, she claims, is not about labeling people as criminals, but about protecting the integrity of legal immigration systems, which are essential for national security, public safety, and the well-being of both citizens and immigrants. Stuckey also critiques how the phrase, "no human is illegal," has been weaponized to shut down conversations about immigration reform and border security. By focusing on the emotional appeal of the slogan, she argues, the broader debate about how to handle immigration becomes overly simplified and emotionally charged. Instead of encouraging thoughtful discussion about how to address the challenges of illegal immigration, it creates a binary where anyone who questions open borders or strict immigration laws is branded as heartless or xenophobic. She warns that such an approach does not allow for constructive solutions to the complex issues surrounding immigration. The author highlights that while it's essential to advocate for humane treatment of immigrants, whether legal or illegal, this should not come at the expense of a nation's right to regulate its borders and enforce its laws. Stuckey stresses that enforcing immigration laws is not about hate, but about preserving the social, economic, and political systems that allow societies to thrive. The solution, she suggests, lies in finding compassionate ways to handle those who are here illegally while still maintaining the integrity of the immigration system, without succumbing to the oversimplification that no human is illegal. By separating a person's intrinsic value from their legal status, Stuckey encourages readers to reconsider how we approach immigration reform, with both compassion and a commitment to the rule of law. Chapter 5. In the final chapter, Allie Beth Stuckey tackles lie number 5, the idea that social justice is justice. This phrase, widely promoted in progressive circles, suggests that social justice movements, focused on issues like racial equality, LGBTQ+ rights, and gender equity, represent the full and true definition of justice. However, Stuckey challenges this claim by explaining that while the desire for justice is commendable, the social justice movement often distorts the meaning of justice and creates division rather than fostering unity. Stuckey begins by recognizing the importance of fighting for genuine justice, such as standing up against oppression, ensuring fairness, and promoting equality. However, she argues that the concept of social justice, as it is commonly understood today, has evolved into something quite different. Social justice, according to Stuckey, has become more about identity politics, group-based grievances, and activism that often disregards the core principles of individual rights and merit-based fairness. In this sense, social justice isn't about achieving equality of opportunity, but rather about creating equality of outcomes, which can lead to the promotion of policies that are unjust or divisive. The chapter highlights how social justice activism has shifted away from seeking true justice and towards a more ideological agenda that divides people into groups based on race, gender, or sexual orientation. Stuckey explains that instead of focusing on individual rights and legal equality, social justice movements often push for policies that favor one group over another under the guise of correcting past wrongs or achieving equity. This, she argues, often results in unintended consequences, such as perpetuating victimhood or eroding meritocracy, and can lead to policies that do not truly advance justice for all. Stuckey also critiques the way in which social justice has been weaponized to shame and silence dissent. Those who question or oppose certain aspects of the social justice agenda are often labeled as bigots, racists, or misogynists, regardless of their actual beliefs. This, she argues, creates a climate of fear where people are afraid to speak their minds or engage in honest conversations about race, gender, or other social issues. Instead of fostering productive dialogue, social justice in this sense becomes a tool of moral superiority and ideological control, where dissenting opinions are invalidated rather than debated. The author emphasizes that true justice, as traditionally understood, is about treating individuals fairly, regardless of their background, and ensuring that they are judged based on their character and actions, not their group identity. She argues that justice should be about upholding the rule of law, safeguarding individual freedoms, and promoting equal treatment for everyone. In contrast, social justice, as it is often practiced today, prioritizes group identities over individual rights and promotes policies that seek to redistribute power and resources based on perceived historical injustices. That's a wrap on Toxic Empathy by Allie Beth Stuckey. Throughout the book, Stuckey challenges the pervasive lies that dominate contemporary culture, urging readers to critically examine popular beliefs and ideologies that often masquerade as truth. With each lie, she deconstructs the rhetoric used to manipulate emotions and foster division, while reminding us of the importance of upholding individual responsibility, reason, and the rule of law. Her book is a call to move beyond emotional, reactionary responses to complex issues and instead embrace a more thoughtful, grounded approach to understanding justice, empathy, and societal challenges. As Stuckey argues, true empathy does not simply mean agreeing with popular narratives, but being willing to engage with the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Thank you so much for listening and joining us. If you enjoyed the audiobook, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more book summaries that help you expand your mind. Drop a comment below to let us know which book you'd like us to explore next, and we'll consider it for our upcoming episodes. We look forward to bringing you more valuable content right here on Page by Page. Until next time, keep learning and growing.